Wednesday, October 21st. Let's finish the story of Samson. When he woke up, he thought, I will do as before and shake myself free. But he didn't realise the Lord had left him. So the Philistines captured him and gouged out his eyes. They took him to Gaza, where he was bound with bronze chains and forced to grind grain in the prison. But before long, his hair began to grow back. The Philistine rulers held a great festival, offering sacrifices and praising their god, Dagon. They said, Our God has given us victory over our enemy, Samson. When the people saw him, they praised their God, saying, Our God has delivered our enemy to us. The one who killed so many of us is now in our power. Half drunk by now, the people demanded, Bring out Samson so he can amuse us. So he was brought from the prison to amuse them, and they had him stand between the pillars supporting the roof. Samson said to the young servant who was leading him by the hand, Place my hands against the pillars that hold up the temple. I want to rest against them. Now the temple was completely filled with people. All the Philistine rulers were there, and there were about 3,000 men and women on the roof who were watching as Samson amused them. Then Samson prayed to the Lord, Sovereign Lord, remember me again. Please strengthen me just one more time. With one blow, let me pay back the Philistines for the loss of my 2 eyes. Then Samson put his hands on the 2 center pillars that held up the temple. Pushing against them with both hands, he prayed, Let me die with the Philistines. And the temple crashed down on the Philistine rulers and all the people. So he killed more people when he died than he had during his entire lifetime. Later, his brothers and other relatives went down to get his body. They took him back home and buried him between Zorah and Eshtaol, where his father Manoah was buried. Samson had judged Israel for 20 years. In many ways, I don't really know what I can say more about this story than I've already said. It's interesting that the Lord left Samson. He was taken into captivity. He was punished cruelly and blinded. And yet, it was still part of God's plan. Although God left Samson for that period, when Samson cried out, when Samson's hair had grown, the secret to his strength, because the Nazirite vow was all about being dedicated to God, was all about purity and focus of life on being God's servant. So blind and tortured and humiliated, the moment at which his hair had grown and Samson cried out and said, Here I am, listen to me one more time, strengthen me one more time. And he pushes against the pillars, and the Philistines are destroyed. Maybe it's a comfort to someone to know that there are times when God goes quiet. There are times when God distances himself, but he is always paying attention. He is always ready to respond to the right prayer, the right cry, the right moment when we are in the right place and at the right sense of need, the right sense of dependence. He's always ready to act in that moment to show that he has actually never been that far away. Maybe that's the message for the end of Samson. Or maybe it is yet again just to recognize that Israel continued over and over again to do what was evil in God's sight, and all the pain and all the suffering and all the distance could have been avoided if they just kept close to God. What have you learned through the story of Samson? I hope it's a good lesson and not one you have to learn in real life. I'll see you tomorrow. Bye.